Why is she even still alive? Victoria's voice, clear, sharp, carrying over the wooden fence at David's house. I was walking back from the garage, carrying nothing, going nowhere in particular, just moving. The way you do at family gatherings when you need a moment away from being seen but not acknowledged. Then I heard my son laugh. Not a shocked laugh, not uncomfortable, just laughing. I stopped, stood there, my hand on the fence. The wood was warm from the June sun. I could hear the barbecue behind me, voices, music, Sophie's friends splashing in the pool. Normal sounds, happy sounds. But I stayed there, listening. Victoria said something else, quieter. I couldn't make it out. David's voice responded, still amused, still light, like they were discussing the weather. I walked back to the patio, slowly. My glass baking dish was still on the table. Peach cobbler, still warm. No one had taken any. The chairs were full. People talking, eating. My folding chair was at the far end, the one that squeaked. David's friends on one side, Victoria's sister on the other. No one looked up when I sat down. I'd given them $55,000 3 years ago for the down payment on this house, this backyard, this fence. The money came from my retirement account, the one George and I built over 40 years. I'd written David a letter, put it in the folder with the check, because you're my son. That was reason enough then. The cobbler sat untouched, condensation forming on the glass. I watched it, thought about picking it up, taking it home, but I didn't. I just sat in the squeaky chair at the end of the table. Victoria walked past, refilling drinks. She asked David's friend if he wanted more lemonade, asked her sister if the burgers were good. Didn't ask me anything. I'd been at this barbecue for 3 hours. No one had asked me a single question. Later, when I said I was leaving, David walked me to my car, hugged me, said thanks for coming. I held the glass dish, empty cobbler. He didn't mention it, just said drive safe. I drove home, 10 minutes. The same streets I'd known for 30 years, pulled into my driveway, sat in the car, engine off, kept hearing it. Why is she even still alive? And my son, laughing. I went inside, put the glass dish in the sink, sat at the kitchen table. The house was quiet. George's chair was empty, had been for 8 years. I sat there until it got dark. Then I made a decision. The next morning I went to the filing cabinet. George and I kept our papers organised. He was meticulous about it. Taxes, insurance, investments, everything labelled, filed. I found the folder from 3 years ago, the one with the check to David. The letter was still there, tucked behind the bank statement. My handwriting, blue ink. David, this is for your future, for your family, for the home you're building. We raised you to be strong, independent, but everyone needs help sometimes. This is ours, because you're my son. With love, Mom. I read it 3 times. Then I put it back, closed the drawer. George had been sick when I wrote that letter. Terminal, we both knew. The doctors gave him 6 months. He lasted 8. In those last weeks, he said something. We were sitting in this kitchen. He was too weak to go upstairs, slept in the recliner. He said, "Make sure David understands what you're giving him." I said, of course, it was money, a gift, clear. George looked at me, said, "I don't mean the money." I didn't understand then. The 55,000 came from our retirement account. George and I had saved for 40 years. He was a civil engineer. I taught 3rd grade. We lived carefully. Vacations were driving trips. Dinners out were Fridays only. We paid off the mortgage in 2003. When George died, the house was mine. The retirement account was mine. I had Social Security, a pension. I was comfortable. Not wealthy, but secure. David knew this. When he asked for help with the down payment, he didn't actually ask. He mentioned they were looking at houses, said the market was tough, that Victoria's parents were giving them 20,000. He didn't say the words, didn't have to. I offered that same day, said I wanted to help. He said, "Are you sure, Mom?" I said yes. He hugged me, said thank you, said it meant everything. Victoria sent a text later, "You're the best," with a heart emoji. They bought the house 2 months later, 4 bedrooms, backyard, pool, the neighbourhood I'd driven through 100 times, wishing George and I could have afforded it when David was young. They invited me over after they moved in, gave me a tour. David said, "None of this would be possible without you." I believed him. That was 3 years ago. Since then, I'd been to the house maybe 15 times, holidays mostly, a few birthdays. The visits followed a pattern. I'd arrive, bring food, sit where they indicated, leave when it seemed appropriate. No one ever came to my house. Not for my birthday, not for Christmas, not just to visit. Last year, David forgot my birthday entirely, called 3 days late, said he'd been swamped with work. I said it was fine. It was. Victoria never called. Sophie used to. When she was younger, she'd call after school, tell me about her day, ask if she could come over. I'd make cookies, we'd watch old movies, she'd fall asleep on the couch, I'd drive her home after dinner. That stopped when she was 14. She got busy. Friends, school, life. I understood. Teenagers don't want to hang out with grandmothers. But sitting in that folding chair yesterday, watching her laugh with her friends in the pool, I realised something. She hadn't looked at me once. Not once in 3 hours. Like I wasn't there. I didn't sleep that night. Lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The house made its usual sounds, creaks, hums, familiar. I'd lived here for 34 years. George and I bought it when David was 9. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. Small by today's standards, but it was ours. George's voice kept coming back. Make sure David understands what you're giving him. What was I giving him? Money. $55,000, a third of my retirement savings. That was concrete, measurable. He understood that. But George meant something else. I got up at dawn, made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, the same table where George and I ate breakfast for 40 years, where David did homework, where we celebrated birthdays, argued, laughed, lived. I thought about the barbecue. Specifically, I thought about the moments, small ones. The way Victoria served everyone but me. The way David's friends asked him questions but never turned to include me. The way Sophie's friends swam and splashed and David said, "Keep it down," but not to them, to nothing, just noise. And I thought about my chair, the folding one, at the end, the one that squeaked. Everyone else sat in patio furniture, cushioned chairs, matching set. I'd seen them in the garage when I arrived, 8 of them, but only 7 were on the patio. I got the folding chair, the one from the garage, metal, old. The one they probably used once a year when they needed extra seating. I was extra seating. In the house I helped buy. Something crystallized then. Not anger, not yet, just clarity. I opened my laptop, started a document, wrote down facts. $55,000 given 3 years ago. No repayment discussed. I didn't expect repayment, but I noted it anyway. 15 visits to their house, 0 visits here. 1 birthday call, 3 days late. No Mother's Day visit this year or last. Christmas at their house. I brought gifts, received a candle, lavender scented, still in the box. I didn't burn candles. They knew that, or they didn't. I wrote for an hour, filling in a pattern I'd been ignoring, or excusing, or explaining away. When I finished, I had 2 pages. 2 pages of invisibility. I saved the document, titled it, "Because You're My Son." Then I Googled something, typed carefully, how to revoke power of attorney. George and I had set up our estate years ago. Simple documents. I had a will, power of attorney, David was named executor of the estate, medical decisions if I became incapacitated. It made sense. He was our son, our only child. The search results loaded, multiple articles, law firm websites, clear instructions. It was reversible, all of it. I could revoke the power of attorney, change the will, remove him as executor. It was legal, simple, just paperwork. I sat back, looked at the screen. Victoria's voice echoed. Why is she even still alive? As if my existence was inconvenient, prolonged, an obstacle to something. I thought about that. What was I obstructing? Inheritance, probably. The house, my small retirement account, whatever was left. Not much, but something. And I was 71, healthy. My mother lived to 93. I could have 20 years left, 20 years of being extra seating, of folding chairs, of cobbler no one touched, or I could do something else. I closed the laptop, stood, walked to the window. The morning sun was bright, birds in the trees, the neighbour's dog barking. George used to say I was too soft, too willing to bend. He said it with affection, but he worried, especially near the end. He said, "Eleanor, promise me something. Don't let people take advantage, even family, especially family." I'd promised. Then I'd given David $55,000, sat in folding chairs, disappeared. But I was still here, still alive, and I had a choice. I picked up my phone, searched for a state attorney near me, found one, Grace Martinez. Reviews said she was direct, fair, experienced. I called, made an appointment, Tuesday, 10 a.m. Then I made coffee, sat down, drank it slowly. For the first time in 3 years, I felt something shift. Not anger. Resolve. Grace Martinez's office was small, second floor, above a coffee shop. I arrived 10 minutes early, sat in the waiting room, 2 chairs, a table with magazines. Nobody else there. Grace came out at exactly 10, mid-50s, grey suit, practical shoes. She shook my hand, firm grip, led me into her office. "Mrs. Mitchell," she said, "you mentioned on the phone you want to revoke a power of attorney. Yes? Can you tell me why?" I hesitated. Then I told her. Not everything, just enough. The gift, the pattern, the invisibility, the overheard comment. Grace listened, took notes, didn't interrupt. When I finished, she set down her pen. "How long has this been going on?" 3 years since I gave him the money, but maybe longer. I just didn't see it. Grace nodded. You're not the first person to sit in that chair and tell me this exact story. Different details, same pattern. Something loosened in my chest. Validation. "What do you want to do?" Grace asked. "Remove him from everything. Power of attorney, medical decisions, executor, all of it." "Are you sure?" "Yes." "Have you talked to him about this?" "No." "Do you plan to?" "Maybe, eventually. But I want the paperwork done first." Grace nodded. Smart. Once emotions are involved, people can test things. Better to have it finalized. She pulled out forms, explained each one. Revocation of power of attorney. New medical directive. I could name someone else, or leave it to the state. I said I'd think about it. Decide later. "And your will?" Grace asked. "I want to change it too." "Remove him as beneficiary?" "Not entirely, but reduce it significantly." Grace made notes. Asked about assets, I listed them. The house, retirement account, savings, Social Security didn't pass on, the rest, maybe 300,000 total. "What do you want to do with it?" I hadn't thought that far. "I don't know yet. Can I decide later?" "Of course. We'll draft a new will. You can specify beneficiaries when you're ready." We worked through the documents. It took an hour. Grace explained everything. I signed. She witnessed. Her assistant notarized. When we finished, Grace handed me copies, said, "These are effective immediately. Your son no longer has power of attorney. You'll need to notify any institutions, banks, insurance, medical providers." "What about him? Do I need to tell him?" "Legally, no, but practically it avoids confusion. He might find out anyway if he tries to use the old documents." I nodded, took the papers, folded them, put them in my purse. Grace walked me to the door, said, "Mrs. Mitchell, can I say something?" "Yes, you're doing the right thing. I've seen too many women your age stay in situations like this out of guilt or hope or fear. You're protecting yourself. That's not cruelty, that's self-respect." I looked at her. "Thank you." She smiled. "Come back if you need anything else. And think about that beneficiary question. There are options, charities, trusts, whatever feels right." I left, walked down the stairs, out onto the street. The sun was bright. I stood there, holding my purse. The papers inside. Signed, legal, done. David no longer had access to my life, my decisions, my money, my medical care. He didn't know yet, but it was done. I drove home, went straight to my desk, found a clean sheet of paper, wrote David's full name at the top. Then I drew a single line through it, not erasing, just crossing out. I put the paper in the folder next to the letter I'd written 3 years ago. "Because you're my son." "Not anymore." Not like that. The locks were next. I called a locksmith Thursday morning, asked for deadbolts, front and back doors. The woman on the phone said they could come that afternoon. I said yes. The locksmith arrived at 2. Young man, early 20s. He looked at the existing locks, said they were old, original to the house probably. I said that was fine, just change them. He worked for an hour. I watched from the kitchen, the sound of drilling, metal, keys clinking. When he finished, he came inside, handed me a small bag. 4 copies of each key, he said, front and back, 8 total. Thank you. You want me to leave the old locks, in case you need them? No. Throw them away. He nodded, packed up his tools. I walked him to the door, paid cash. He left. I stood in the hallway, holding the bag of keys. 8 copies, all for me. I went to the kitchen, emptied the bag on the table, counted them, separated them. 4 for the front door, 4 for the back. I put 2 of each on my keyring. The other 4 I placed in a drawer. Emergency copies. 0 for David, 0 for Victoria, 0 for anyone. The old keys they had wouldn't work anymore if they came by, tried to let themselves in. The locks wouldn't turn. They'd have to knock, wait for me to answer, or not. I walked to the front door, locked it, unlocked it. The mechanism was smooth, new. It felt different, heavier somehow. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I engaged the deadbolt in the middle of the day, locked myself inside my own house, stood there, listened to the silence, safe. I walked through each room, checked the windows, all locked, went to the back door, tested it, locked, deadbolt engaged. Then I sat on the couch. My house, my locks, my keys. For 34 years, David had a key. First as a teenager, then as an adult. Even after he moved out, I'd given him one in case of emergency. He'd used it maybe twice. Once when I was on vacation and needed him to water plants. Once when I'd locked myself out. Victoria had a key too. I'd given it to her when they got married. She'd never used it, not once, but she had it. Now they didn't. I thought about calling David, telling him, explaining. But I didn't want to explain, didn't want to hear his voice, his excuses, his reassurance that I'd misunderstood, that Victoria didn't mean it, that he wasn't laughing at me, just laughing. I'd heard what I heard, and I'd made my decision. The locksmith had asked if I wanted him to leave the old locks. I'd said no, throw them away, because I wasn't going back, wasn't reopening doors that should have stayed closed. I made tea, sat at the table. The keys were still there, shining, new. I picked up one, turned it over in my hand. Cold, metal, solid. A simple thing, a lock, a key. But it meant something. I wasn't extra seating anymore. I was the one who decided who came inside. The bank was Monday. I'd made a list over the weekend, every account, every card, every place David's name appeared. There were more than I expected. Joint checking. His name added 12 years ago when George got sick. In case something happens, Mum. Nothing happened. George recovered that time, but the name stayed. Savings account, same story. Credit card, authorised user, added 6 years ago when he needed to rent a car for a work trip. His credit was bad then. I helped. The trip ended, the authorisation didn't. I drove to the branch, walked in at 9, spoke to a representative, young woman. Name tag said Jessica. I said I wanted to remove an authorised user from my accounts, all of them. Can I ask who? My son. Jessica nodded, pulled up my accounts on her computer, scanned them. OK, I see David Mitchell listed on, let's see, checking, savings, and as an authorised card holder. You want him removed from all 3? Yes. May I ask why? Sometimes there's a
Sometimes there are some
Sorry, want him erased completely.
Jessica blinked, then nodded. OK, I'll need your ID, and I'll have to verify some information. This will take about 10 minutes. I have time, she typed. Asked me questions, date of birth, social security number, mother's maiden name, security questions. I answered each one, precisely. Then she printed forms, showed me where to sign. I signed, 4 times. My name, Eleanor Mitchell. Careful, decisive. When I finished, Jessica said, "This takes effect immediately. Mr. Mitchell will no longer have access. If he tries to use the card or access the accounts, it will be declined. He'll receive a notification in the mail within 5 business days." Good. Do you want me to issue you a new card? Same account, just a new number, in case he, has the current one memorised. Yes, do that. She processed it. Said the new card would arrive in 7 to 10 days. I said fine. She handed me a receipt, confirmation numbers, everything documented. I thanked her, started to leave, then stopped. Jessica? Yes? How often does this happen? People removing family members? She paused, looked around, lowered her voice. More than you'd think. Especially, I'm not supposed to say, but you're not the first older woman this week who's come in to remove an adult child. I nodded, left. In the car, I sat, looked at the receipt. David's name was still printed there, under removed authorised users. But it was past tense. Removed. Done. I drove home, went straight to the desk, pulled out my address book, the one I'd had since the 90s. Plastic tabs, alphabetical. The pages were yellowed. Some entries crossed out. People who'd moved, died, drifted. I flipped to M, found David's entry. His name, phone number, address. Victoria's name next to his. I'd added her after they got married, used a different pen, blue. The original entry was black. I picked up a pen, drew a single line through both names, not scrubbing them out, just one clean line. Then I flipped to the L section, added a new entry. Grace Martinez, attorney. Her office number, email, written neatly, permanent. I closed the address book, put it back in the drawer. Then I checked my phone, blocked David's number, blocked Victoria's, not deleted, just blocked. They could call, leave voicemails. I wouldn't hear them, wouldn't see the notifications. I kept Sophie's number, unblocked, active, just in case. But David and Victoria were gone from my phone, my bank accounts, my address book, my house keys, methodically erased. I made lunch, sandwich, tea, sat at the table, ate slowly. The house was quiet. No one calling, no one dropping by, no one needing anything. For the first time in 3 years, I felt light. Not happy exactly, not yet, but unburdened. I thought about the $55,000, how I'd never get it back, how I didn't want it back. It wasn't about the money, it never was. It was about what I'd given along with it, my trust, my expectation of reciprocity, of acknowledgement. I'd been invisible. Now I was making myself seen, by myself, for myself. That afternoon I went to the grocery store, bought things I liked, not things David or Victoria preferred when they visited, because they didn't visit. I bought expensive coffee, the kind I never splurged on. A box of chocolates, real butter. Small luxuries. I came home, put everything away, made myself a cup of the good coffee, sat on the porch, watched the street, neighbours walking dogs, kids on bikes, life moving, normal, steady. And I was part of it, not waiting for someone to include me, just being. The coffee was good. I finished the cup, went inside, locked the door behind me. My lock, my key, my house, mine. Grace called Wednesday. Said she'd been thinking about our conversation, about the will, the beneficiary question. Asked if I'd decided anything. I said no, not yet. She said, "Can I suggest something? Come in, let's talk about options. No pressure, just information." I went Thursday. Same office, same chair. Grace had documents ready, not final, just examples. She walked me through possibilities. Leave the estate to charity, specify which one, set up a trust, create conditions, or do nothing, let the state decide. What about family, I asked. If I don't leave it to David, what does that look like? You can exclude him entirely, or leave him a nominal amount. $1, a token. That way it's clear you didn't forget him. You chose $1. Yes, it's symbolic. It says, I remembered you. This is what you get. I thought about that. $1. For 55,000 given, for 34 years of being his mother, for folding chairs and untouched cobbler. It felt right. What about the rest? I asked. Grace showed me a list. Charities, organisations, local, national. I scanned them. Nothing resonated. Then I saw one at the bottom. Pathways House, I read aloud. What's that? It's a women's shelter here in town. Provides housing, legal help, job training for women leaving dangerous situations. I looked up. Dangerous? Domestic violence mostly. But not always. Sometimes it's financial abuse, emotional control. Women who need a door they can lock from the inside. My chest tightened. That's what you said, Grace continued, when you were describing your situation, that you needed to lock your door, change your locks, control who has access. These women, they need the same thing, literally. I stared at the document. Pathways House, founded 1992, served over 3,000 women. Current capacity, 18 beds. Funding, donations and grants. How much would help? I asked. Any amount helps, but if you're talking about an estate, 300,000, that would be significant. They could expand, add beds, hire staff. It would change lives. I sat back, thought about my house, George's house, the one we built together, paid off, filled with 40 years of memories. After I died, it would be sold. The money distributed to David, who'd already gotten 55,000, who laughed when his wife asked why I was still alive. Or to women who needed safety, who needed doors with locks, who needed someone to believe them, to say, you're not crazy, you're not overreacting, you deserve control over your own life. I want to do that, I said. Grace looked up. Pathways? Yes, everything. The house, the retirement account, whatever's left, all of it, except $1 for David. Grace smiled, small, professional, but genuine. Okay, let me draft this. You'll need to review it. We'll make it legal, ironclad, so it can't be contested. Can he contest it? He can try, but if we do this right, make your intentions clear. Document your sound mind. Get it notarized, witnessed. It'll hold up. Especially with the nominal amount. It shows you considered him, chose otherwise. We worked through details. I signed papers, stated my intentions. Grace recorded them, asked questions, documented answers. When we finished, I had a new will, temporary, pending final review, but clear. David Mitchell, $1. Pathways House, everything else. Grace walked me out. At the door she said, "Mrs. Mitchell, can I ask what made you choose Pathways?" I thought about it. Because I understand what it means to need a door you can lock from the inside. She nodded. They'll be honoured when the time comes. I'll make sure they know why you chose them. I left, drove home. This time I didn't sit in the car, just went straight inside. Put the documents in the filing cabinet next to the folder with the old will, the one that left everything to David. I didn't throw away the old will, kept it for comparison, for proof. This is what I intended. This is what I changed. This is why. That night I made dinner just for myself. Pasta, salad, glass of wine. I ate at the table, George's chair empty. But I wasn't eating across from absence. I was eating alone, by choice. After dinner, I looked up Pathways House online, found their website, saw photos, women smiling, children playing, safe spaces, clean rooms, locked doors. I read testimonials, stories, women who'd escaped, rebuilt, survived. One woman wrote, "Pathways gave me time to think, time to plan, time to remember who I was before I disappeared." I closed the laptop, understood completely. David came Saturday. I was in the kitchen making tea. Heard a car in the driveway, then footsteps, then knocking, hard, insistent. I didn't move. More knocking, harder. "Mum, open the door." David's voice, not worried, annoyed. I stayed in the kitchen, poured my tea, slowly. The knocking stopped. I heard him try the key. The lock didn't turn. He tried again, rattled the handle. Nothing. "Mom, louder now. Your lock's broken. Let me in." I walked to the door, stood behind it, didn't open it. "It's not broken," I said. "Through the wood." Silence. Then, "What?" "The lock. It's not broken. I changed it." More silence. Longer this time. "You changed it?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because it's my house." I heard him exhale, frustrated. "Okay, can you open the door? I need to talk to you." "We can talk like this." "Mum, come on, this is ridiculous." "Is it?" Another pause, then footsteps, moving away. I looked through the peephole, saw him walk back to his car, thought he was leaving, but he didn't get in, just stood there. Pulled out his phone, typed something. 30 seconds later, Victoria got out. Passenger side. I hadn't seen her. She'd been sitting there, waiting. They talked. Victoria gestured. David shook his head. Then they both walked back to the door, stood there. Victoria stayed behind him, like a shield or backup. David knocked again, lighter this time. "Mum, please, we need to talk. Open the door." "About what?" "About... I got a letter from the bank. Says I'm not authorized anymore on your accounts. There has to be a mistake." "No mistake. What do you mean? I removed you." "You? You removed me?" "Yes. Why?" I didn't answer immediately, just stood there, behind my locked door, in my house, feeling calm. "Finally, because I don't trust you." Victoria said something, quiet. I couldn't hear. David told her to wait. Then, "Mum, what are you talking about? I'm your son." "I know." "Then why would you... What did I do?" I heard what Victoria said. Silence. Complete. I could almost feel him trying to remember, calculate, figure out what I meant. "At the barbecue," I continued, "I was by the fence. I heard her ask why I was even still alive, and I heard you laugh." More silence. Then David, "Mum, that was, we were joking." "It wasn't a joke." "Yes, it was. Victoria was. She was being sarcastic. It wasn't about you." "It was about me. I was there. It was my life, my existence. She asked why I was still alive. You laughed. That's not sarcasm, that's cruelty." Victoria's voice now, louder. "Mrs. Mitchell, I didn't mean it like that. I was. David and I were talking about... I don't even remember. It was taken out of context." "Cruelty doesn't need context," I said. David again. "Okay, look, I'm sorry. We're both sorry if you misunderstood. But this is blocking me from your accounts? Changing your locks? That's extreme. Is it?" "Yes. I gave you $55,000 3 years ago. Since then, you've invited me to your house 15 times. You've never visited mine. You forgot my birthday last year. You put me in a folding chair at the end of the table. You didn't ask me one question at the barbecue, not one. You don't see me. Don't acknowledge me. I'm invisible to you, except when you need something. That's not family. That's convenience." Silence, long, heavy. Then David, "That's not fair, isn't it? You're my mother. I love you." "Love requires action. You've shown me nothing. That's not true. We included you. We invited you." Inviting me isn't the same as wanting me there. Victoria spoke again, defensive now. "This is insane. David, let's just go. She's clearly not thinking straight." I spoke louder. "I'm thinking perfectly straight. For the first time in years." "David, Mum, please, can we come inside? Talk about this, face to face." "No." "Why not?" "Because this is my house, my door, my decision, and I'm deciding no." I heard him breathe, frustrated, trapped. Then, "Fine, what do you want?" "I don't want anything from you." "What does that mean?" "It means I've removed you from my accounts, my will, my medical decisions, everything. You have no access, no authority, no claim. If something happens to me, you won't be called. You won't decide anything. You're out." Victoria gasped, actually gasped. You can't do that. I already did. David, Mum, you can't be serious. I am. What about Sophie? Sophie can call me if she wants, but you can't. I've blocked your number. Don't come by. Don't write. I've said what I needed to say. David's voice changed. Harder now. This is because of money, isn't it? You're punishing me because you think I... What? Took advantage? No. This is because I heard my son laugh when his wife asked why I was still alive, and I decided I wouldn't wait around to find out the answer. Silence, absolute. Then footsteps, walking away. Car doors, engine starting, gravel crunching as they backed out, drove away. I stood at the door, listening to the silence. Then I turned, went back to the kitchen, picked up my tea. It was cold. I poured it out, made a new cup, sat at the table, my house, my lock, mine. Sophie called Tuesday. I saw her name on the screen, hesitated, then answered. Grandma. Yes, can I come over? I didn't answer immediately, waited. Sophie continued. I know about what happened with Dad. He told me, Can I please come over? I want to talk. What do you want to talk about? About everything. About what I did, what I didn't do. I just... Please? Her voice cracked, not manipulative, genuinely upset. When? I asked. Today, after school, I can be there by 4. I looked at the clock. 2:30. Okay. Really? Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Grandma. I'll see you at 4. She hung up. I sat there, phone in hand, wondering if I'd made a mistake, if this was the beginning of... What? Reconciliation? Manipulation? David sending Sophie to soften me? I didn't know, but I'd find out. At 4, I heard a car looked out, Sophie's small sedan. She got out, alone, no David, no Victoria. She walked to the door, knocked, soft. I opened it. She stood there, 16, tall now, almost adult, but her face young, red eyes, like she'd been crying. Hi, she said. Hi, can I come in? I stepped aside. She entered, looked around, like she hadn't been here in years. She hadn't, not since she was 14. You want tea? I asked. Sure. We went to the kitchen. I made 2 cups. We sat, the table between us. Sophie wrapped her hands around her mug, stared at it. I'm sorry, she said. For what? For everything. For not visiting. For ignoring you at the barbecue. For... laughing. I looked up. You laughed? Not when. When Mum said that thing, I didn't hear that. But other times, when they... When Dad and Mom would make jokes about you, about how you, I don't know, they made it seem like you were annoying, always hovering, always trying too hard. And I laughed. I went along with it because I wanted them to think I was mature, that I wasn't a kid anymore. But I was mean. I was so mean, Grandma, and I didn't even realize. She was crying now. Real tears, not performance. I handed her a tissue. She took it, wiped her face. "Why are you here?" I asked. Not unkind, just direct. "Because I owe you an apology, and because, I don't know, Dad's been upset, angry. He keeps saying you've lost it, that you're being irrational. But I don't think you are. I think you're right." I sipped my tea, said nothing. Sophie continued. "He told me you changed your will, that you're leaving everything to charity." He was. He said horrible things about how ungrateful, how you owed him because he's your son, and I sat there listening, and I thought, he never once said he loved you. He just kept talking about money. And I realized, I'm becoming him. If I don't stop, I'll be him. She looked up, met my eyes. "I don't want to be him." I set down my cup. "Sophie, are you here because you want to be, or because your dad sent you?" "I'm here because I want to be. He doesn't know. He'd be furious if he knew." "Why?" "Because," he said I should cut you off, that if you're going to punish him, I should take his side. But I don't want to take sides. I miss you." Something shifted, small, but real. "I miss you too," I said. Sophie smiled, small, sad. Can we? Is there a way to fix this?" "I don't know," I said. "Honest, I'm not cutting you off, Sophie, but I need you to understand I'm not changing my mind about your father or Victoria, what they did, what they said. That's not fixable, not for me. I've made my decisions and they're final. I'm not asking you to change your mind. I'm just... Can I still see you, visit, even if Dad doesn't?" "Yes." "Really?" "Yes." "But Sophie, this isn't me cutting people off. This is me choosing who I let into my life, who I trust, who I give my time to. You can be part of that, if you want, but only if it's real, if you're here because you want to be, not because you feel obligated or guilty." She nodded, wiped her face again. "It's real. I promise. I've been thinking about this for days. Ever since Dad told me, I realized I haven't been a good granddaughter. I took you for granted. I assumed you'd always be there, waiting. But you're not a thing. You're a person. And I'm sorry I forgot that." I reached across the table, took her hand. She squeezed back. "Thank you," I said. We sat like that, quiet, drinking tea. Then Sophie looked around, noticed something. You changed the locks? Yes. Can I have a key? Or is that too much to ask? I thought about it. Not now. Maybe later. I need time to trust again. Okay, I understand. We talked for another hour about school, her life, friends, nothing heavy, just connection. When she left, she hugged me, tight, longer than expected. Can I come back? She asked. Yes. Whenever you want. She smiled, got in her car, drove away. I went back inside, sat at the table. The teacups were still there, 2, not 1. Progress. The next day, something arrived in the mail. Envelope. Sophie's handwriting. I opened it. Inside was a drawing, pencil, detailed, a woman sitting in a chair, in front of a chessboard. The woman had 2 pieces, a queen and a knight. The opponent had a full set, but the woman's pieces were in winning positions, checkmate in 2 moves. At the bottom, Sophie had written, "Strategy beats numbers. Love, Sophie." I taped it to the refrigerator, right at eye level. A reminder. I wasn't outnumbered. I was strategic. I put the house on the market in September, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. The house was too big, too many rooms, too many memories. Some good, some painful. I needed something different, smaller, mine in a new way. The realtor said it would sell fast. Good neighborhood, well maintained, 3 bedrooms, original hardwood. I said fine, listed it. Within a week I had an offer, full price, quick closing. I found an apartment, ground floor, small complex on the east side. 2 bedrooms, south-facing windows, bright, clean, affordable. I signed the lease, October 1st. Moving day was late September. I hired movers, didn't ask for help, didn't need it. The movers packed everything, loaded it, drove across town, unloaded it. I stood in the empty house one last time, walked through the rooms, the kitchen where George and I had breakfast for 40 years, the bedroom where David was born, where George died, the living room, the porch. I didn't cry, just acknowledged this was a chapter, closed. Then I locked the door, left the key with the realtor, drove to the apartment. The movers were still unloading, boxes everywhere, furniture stacked, chaos, but temporary. I directed them, this room, that corner. They worked for 2 hours, then left. I stood in the middle of the living room, surrounded by boxes, my things, not George's, not David's, mine. I unpacked methodically. Kitchen first. Found the box with the tea kettle, George's gift from our wedding. 49 years old, dented, stained, but functional. I washed it, filled it, set it on the stove. While the water boiled, I unpacked dishes, glasses, silverware, found the glass baking dish, the one from the barbecue, untouched cobbler. I'd washed it when I got home that day, kept it. Now I put it in the cabinet. Not hidden, just stored, ready for use. The tea kettle whistled. I poured water, made tea, sat on the couch, the only furniture unpacked. Everything else could wait. I looked around. The apartment was small, manageable. The windows let in light. The door had a deadbolt, a chain, a peephole, safe. I finished my tea, stood, started unpacking again. Bedroom next. Found the box labelled personal. Inside, photos, documents, Sophie's drawing. I took out the drawing, unfolded it, the woman, the chessboard. Strategy beats numbers. I found tape, hung it on the wall, directly across from the couch where I'd see it every day. Then I unpacked clothes, books, lamps. By evening, the apartment was livable, not finished, but functional. I made dinner, sandwich, soup, ate at the small kitchen table, alone, content. After dinner, I went to the window, looked out. The street was quiet, trees, sidewalk, a neighbour walking a dog, normal, peaceful. My phone buzzed, text from Sophie. How's the new place? I typed back, good, you should come see it. When? Whenever you want. This weekend? Yes. 3 dots. Then, can't wait. Love you, Grandma. Love you too. I set down my phone. Looked around. Small apartment, new locks, south-facing windows, Sophie's drawing on the wall, tea kettle on the stove. Not much, but mine. And that was enough. 3 months later, I had visitors. 2 friends, Linda and Margaret, women I'd known for years, from church, from the library. We'd drifted when George got sick, when David consumed my attention, but I'd called them, said I'd moved, invited them for tea. They came Thursday afternoon, brought cookies. We sat in the living room, south windows flooding the space with light. Sophie's drawing visible on the wall. They noticed it, asked about it. I explained, simply. My granddaughter drew it. A gift. We talked about everything. The weather, Margaret's hip surgery, Linda's daughter getting married. Nothing heavy, nothing dramatic, just life. At one point, Linda asked about David. We're not in contact, I said. Oh, I'm sorry. Don't be. It was my choice. She nodded, didn't push. We moved on, talked about other things, the new coffee shop downtown, the book club Linda wanted to start. I said I'd join. They stayed 2 hours. When they left, they hugged me, said we should do this again, soon. I agreed, walked them to the door, watched them leave. Then I went back inside, cleaned up the teacups, the cookie plates, put everything away. The apartment was quiet, but not empty, not lonely, just still. I sat at the table, opened my journal, the one I'd been keeping since June, since the barbecue, since I'd heard Victoria's question. I flipped through the pages, entries documenting everything, the legal actions, the locks, the bank, the will, the conversation with David, Sophie's apology, the move. Then I turned to a blank page, wrote the date, December 14th, paused. Thought about what to write. Finally, they asked why I was still alive. At the time, I didn't have an answer, or I had the wrong one. I thought I was alive to serve, to give, to be available, to be useful, to be the mother, the grandmother, the woman in the folding chair at the end of the table. But that's not why I'm alive. I'm alive to remember my name, Eleanor Mitchell, not David's mother, not George's widow. Eleanor, a woman who taught third grade for 30 years, who loves tea, who plants tomatoes every spring, who reads mysteries, who deserves respect. I'm alive to set my own table, to choose who sits there, to serve people who see me, who ask questions, who stay because they want to, not because they need something. I'm alive to hold the door open, but only for those who knock with clean hands, who come because they care, not because they're waiting for me to die so they can inherit. Sophie came back last weekend, brought her boyfriend, a polite kid, nervous. She gave me a plant, a succulent, said it's hard to kill. I laughed, put it on the windowsill. She helped me rearrange furniture, talked about college applications, her life. We made dinner together, pasta, salad, nothing fancy, but it was real. David hasn't called, hasn't written. I think he thought I'd change my mind, soften, reach out first, but I haven't, and I won't. Some doors close for good. And that's okay. I'm 71. I might have 20 years left, might have 2, I don't know. But whatever time I have, it's mine. I'll spend it with people who deserve it, who value it, who value me. That's the answer. That's why I'm still alive. I closed the journal, set down my pen, stood, walked to the window. The street was dark now, streetlights glowing. Cold outside, but inside, warm, safe. Behind me, the apartment, small, simple, mine. Sophie's drawing on the wall, the tea kettle on the stove, the glass baking dish in the cabinet, ready for the next time I baked for people who'd actually eat it. I stood there, looking out, feeling, calm, not angry, not bitter, just clear. I turned away from the window, walked to the kitchen, filled the kettle, set it on the stove. While I waited for it to boil, I looked at the drawing one more time. Strategy beats numbers. The kettle whistled. I made my tea.